The monster manual is just around the corner, and the whispers on the wind speak of changes big and small. But what exactly would I want to be added if given the chance to do some backseat game design? Here's a short wish list of some high hopes. And yes, one of them has kind of been confirmed, which is genuinely exciting. Hi there, I'm just a second level fighter who likes talking about Dungeons and Dragons, and if you've ever felt disappointed by a specific monster in D&D, consider leaving a like, hitting the subscribe button, or even just letting me know about it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your tragic tale of ruined expectations. But enough about that, because today I'm sharing my desires for the new monster manual. So, on the 18th of February 2025, plebs like myself will be getting access to the final of the trio of core rulebooks for the updated version of 5th edition. I'll be honest, this is the one that I've been the most excited to get my grubby little fingers on, at least in a virtual sense on D&D Beyond. Now, we do know a few things. Proper promotion for the book started last week, and many of the big names in the D&D YouTube space have been given specific insights into some pretty hectic-looking additions and updates like Animal Lords and Empyreans. And that's great and all, but I want to stress that we don't have full context on anything. Whether it be man-hags, succubi and incubi, or promises of the Tarrasque being the king of the monster manual, take everything with a grain of salt and don't freak out or applaud just yet. I will just quickly mention that the artwork I've seen so far looks to be on a level above the PHB and DMG, and good lord, some of it has some dark and scary vibes like the Bone Devil, which kinda reminds me of a death metal or even deathcore album cover. That all being said, here's a list of 6 things that I personally want to see in the monster manual, and yes, it is absolutely too late for any of this to make any sort of difference whatsoever. But it's just for fun, and the last one on the list seems to be confirmed. So sit back and get ready to agree or disagree with me, but please do let me know what you think deserves a place in this book in the comments below. Kicking it off with something simple, I want to see either an alternative to goblins as enemies or just a better look at the little green nuisances themselves. So why this of all the things I could wish for? Well, depending on the setting you play in, goblins aren't a common enemy or even evil. I don't personally have any issue whatsoever with inherently evil sentient creatures that you can smush without any sort of moral dilemma, but not everyone feels that way, and certain books like Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse position goblins in a very different way. But something has to populate the first few combat encounters for a party of level 1 adventurers, and it's generally more interesting if that threat isn't a group of beasts or non-interactable enemies. Small obscenity-screaming humanoids are always more exciting to do battle with. And yeah, kobolds and svarts can also fill this role, but they've never quite been able to hijack the spotlight and become as popular. Kobolds tend to stick to their tunnels, which is a literal death sentence for a level 1 party, and svarts are just kinda too obscure. It would also be nice if the options weren't just goblin with a short sword or goblin with a short bow. Level 1 combat encounters in D&D are the deadliest, and it isn't even close. Balance sits on a knife edge, and pretty much everyone is one critical hit away from being told to re-roll halfway through the session. I'd like to see some more attention put into creating monsters like goblins specifically designed to fight level 1 player characters. But are goblins even a problem here? Nobody stays at level 1 for too long, and once you reach level 2 you can pretty safely throw in a shaman or warg to spice things up a little bit. My second wish for the new monster manual is a bit odd and somewhat challenging to explain. I don't expect to see it in its entirety, but I'd like to see some combinations of NPC-type monster stat blocks that can form a mirror to the adventuring party, and I want to see it in pretty much every tier of play, even if the stat blocks themselves are just kinda loosely grouped together. In my opinion, apart from epic encounters with big campaign threats like dragons and fiends, the most exciting encounters are the ones where the DM puts a mirror up to the players and lets them see what it's like to deal with their own type of abilities and shenanigans. In other words, it's fun to see how a party of adventurers fares against another party of adventurers, which could be bandits, cultists, or even literal rivals. Whatever form they take, my perfect setup here is a spellcaster, a frontliner, a ranged threat, and a skirmisher or assassin type character. However, it would be hilarious to watch a party full of barbarians going toe-to-toe with another party full of barbarians. Homebrewing this type of encounter presents its own challenges, however. You can't really make a group of NPCs with the same rules as player characters and run them against your party due to the prospect of being overwhelmed and the fact that PvP in D&D is absurdly unbalanced. But with the correct array of stat blocks, it is possible. I just hope that there might be some level of guidance here, because as things stand, the stat blocks you use all kinda have different CRs, and it's hard to tell what will and won't kill your team. Balancing your mirror party's spellcaster with the rest of the squad is usually the issue. This problem is somewhat exacerbated at higher tiers of play too, where spellcasters can really screw over your players. That being said, I really want to see this played out at level 20. Third on the list is the entire category of Fey creatures. I have a very big problem with the fact that the list of Fey creatures is one of the most limited in size, but also one of the most limited in terms of higher CR threats. If you've run a little excursion into the Feywild and your players were around level 8 or higher and you're using official stat blocks only, there's a very good chance that they had absolutely nothing to fear while strolling through Wonderland. I understand that at a surface level glance, the Feywild is the realm outside of the material plane that resembles it closest and is kind of the safest to just go to and visit, but I want the creatures there to have some teeth to scare the party with, and not just from a narrative standpoint either. We literally have a subclass that gets their power from an archfey, so why haven't we gotten a stat block for an archfey yet? And this was kind of confirmed in an offhand blink and you miss it moment in the official D&D video covering the stuff in the new monster manual. Apparently there are now archhags, which sounds spicy. On that note, what do we call the male hags that we're getting? Manhags? Mags? There is no way in hell I'm calling them uncle or grandpa, screw that. It's just a completely different tone and vibe to auntie or granny. And I gotta ask, is a party of adventurers gonna be willing to have tea with the old auntie that lives in a chicken-footed cabin in the woods? Yeah, sure, why not? Is that same party in any way, shape, or form gonna be inspired to go take a swig from some gangrenous drunk drifter's brown bag-covered bottle of booze as he insists that they call him uncle while giving them a tour of his rust base located underneath a shady bridge in the Feywild? I don't know, maybe, but it's really, really creepy. How do you feel about the man-hags? I feel like I need full context and some time to mull it over. Oh, and one more thing, they aren't really Fey, but they pretty much exclusively muck about in the Feywild. But we need better unicorns. If you've ever gone against one, you'll know that they run away or roll over and die. There is no in-between. Unless you throw one at a third level party, in which case it's gonna be a massacre. But I want to see a CR15 unicorn that farts rainbows and drinks the blood of idiot adventurers. Next up is a mechanical rule and not really a monster. I want to see some sort of feature that lets the leader of a group of enemies call for a retreat. Not every single encounter in D&D needs to be a deathmatch with no survivors. 95% of monsters should have some level of self-preservation, and something like this could also teach players that it's okay to run from combat. I do not expect this type of thing to pop up at all, but I could see it as a shared feature on a few humanoids or beast stat blocks. Maybe something that lets the leader of a group take either an action on their own turn or a reaction when one of their allies is taken out near them. It could also work as a legendary action. This could then give all of their allies within a certain distance the chance to take a reaction to move up to their speed or half of their speed or something similar. I kinda just want to see it worked in as a mechanical option that a DM could take without homebrewing, even if on just one or two commander type units. Maybe on a mercenary captain or hobgoblin. But yeah, I don't have high hopes for this one. And the big one we've all been waiting for since the PHB was released, we need to get some decent progression of beast stat blocks for the Moon Druid, as well as a bigger list of options for druids in general. We also need options for polymorph too. Now, we are getting the CR20 Animal Lords, and that's awesome, but this is specifically a desire for a pretty varied list of CR1 to 6 beasts that can fill a number of battlefield roles so that the Moon Druid isn't just wild shaping into whatever hits the hardest. I also want to see some awesome out of combat beasts too. On the note of damage, it did seem like they were moving more toward beasts having multi-attack rather than a single big attack like was common in some of the 2014 books. Multi-attack is definitely better, but I also want to see some more utility too. However, the issue of wild shape forms having very low to hit modifiers is an issue that I want to see solved, but I don't know that they can solve it while keeping the beasts themselves balanced as enemies to encounter. A level 20 Moon Druid running around in their fursona with a plus 7 or 8 to hit just isn't quite good enough, but a party of level 5s encountering a massive bear with a plus 11 to hit also isn't a great situation to have. Moon Druids should have been allowed to replace their Wild Shape's attack modifier with their spell attack modifier, but it's too late for that now, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I did hear that a certain kobold said that giant crocodiles and mammoths are the best forms for Moon Druids, and that doesn't quite fill me with too much confidence in my wish here being granted, but all will be revealed in greater detail soon, I guess. Finally, my last wish is that the Tarrasque gets fixed. And after watching Crawford address some of the issues I had floating around in my head, I am happy to announce that my wish is granted here. Quick history lesson. The Tarrasque was the highest CR creature in the 2014 Monster Manual. It was a monster of legendary proportion and reputation. It had the highest health and some of the scariest attacks and mechanics. However, one day some nameless fighter turd with a pair of winged boots and a magical longbow moonwalked through the air and sent the Titan back into the bowels of the earth. What I mean to say is the Tarrasque can eat you and it is pretty scary to spellcasters. But if you are an archer, you have nothing to fear and it's just another day at the target range. There have been Titan-type monsters released since then that have been way more scary. This thing is supposed to be the final boss of D&D. It should be terrifying. It should be a kaiju specifically designed with the intention of murdering a party of level 20 adventurers. No punches should be pulled in this thing's stat block whatsoever. The Tarrasque should really be the physical embodiment of the Doom 2016 soundtrack. That being said, Crawford basically challenged players to try the Archer crap and get away with it now, and I fully want to see the outcome of that challenge. We obviously need to see this stat block before passing final judgment, but I am super excited to see what's potting with the alleged king of the 2024 Monster Manual. Alright, that was my brief wish list for things I want to see in the new Monster Manual. It's by no means everything, by the way. I didn't mention wanting to see more mount options or more sentient and giant plants. Anyway, if you've made it this far into the video, then you're a legend, and I really do appreciate you. But I've got to ask, what do you want to see? What's on your wish list? But yeah, that'll do it for this one. Cheers.